Welcome, guys, to the Progress Over Perfection podcast, episode number 9. Now, today, myself and Ali are going to be covering issues we've both seen and continue to see in bodybuilding in 2024. Everything from training to nutrition, supplements, and even just down to things like social media. So we thought this would be a good subject to cover today. And Ali, as always, I'm going to hand over to you to kickstart the first subject.
Okay, cool. So what me and Cal are going to talk about here, we're not bad-mouthing people off and we're not slagging people off in a negative way. We're just trying to make people aware of potential things that they may be doing in their day-to-day life that actually might not be helping them move closer towards their goal when it comes to a competing standpoint. So one of the biggest issues I see within bodybuilding now, and this is quite a broad topic that we can discuss, is people actually not enjoying the process of bodybuilding and are doing it for the quote-unquote stage photos. But if you look at bodybuilding as a whole, you are dieting for, let's say, roughly 20 weeks. That's a long time. That's 5 months out of the year are gone. And then leading up to that, you'll probably be in an improvement phase for a good year to 6 months to 8 months. So it's a long time of your life to dedicate to a sport if you don't actually enjoy it. So why would you do it if you don't actually enjoy it? And me and you both know this, like stepping on stage, when you step off stage, it's quite anticlimactic. It's like, what now kind of thing. But when someone like ourselves with our mindset steps off stage, it's like, okay, on to the next phase. What do I need to improve on? But again, that's a process that you go through. And I think a lot of people don't actually love the process. And then that's when you're seeing people slagging off bodybuilding, saying it's give them X, Y, and Z issues or disorders, however you want to word it. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I just don't think they've actually fully loved the process. And they've done something when they probably shouldn't have been doing it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a brilliant subject to start on because I think, again, this leads into social media a lot because I think we all show highlights to some degree. Like, obviously, we can be as transparent as we want, but what I think with transparency is it never really shows emotion. So let's say, for instance, you have a hard day on prep and you say you're hungry. Unless you're actually experiencing that of hunger in real time, you can't relate to that. Like, whereas if somebody posts a high from preppers in the pictures of them shredded, that's instantly like, I want to look like that without knowing the corresponding feeling that comes with that. So I think even if someone does show the lows or the harder moments of a prep, it's hard to resonate from that unless you've been through it. So then that's when, like you say, people will try it to get to that visual outcome that they want, not knowing what comes with that physically in terms of the emotions and feelings that you'll feel in that moment in the process.
And I think it's also that lack of understanding, as you just sort of said then, of actually how hard it is. Like, when people are complaining about prep, it's like, what did you expect? Like, you know your food's going to have to be lower. You know your output's going to have to be higher. You know training is going to feel a bit more of a chore towards the back end of it because you haven't got as much energy. And then if you are assisted, you know ped use is going to be higher, which is also going to affect you from having to pin yourself more frequently, but also from a psychological aspect of it. So it's like, this is the prep itself in a nutshell. So when people are getting into it, it's like they should have this expectation of what it's going to be like instead of going into it a bit naively. And like naivety can be great sometimes, but I don't think you should be naive when it comes to prep.
Yeah. Always, I don't want to say think the worst, that's a really poor way of wording it, but think you may have to do X, Y, Z, and if it's less, you're on a win. If you go in thinking that you're going to do less and have to do more, that's always then going to be harder than if you think about it.
Of course. It's like, and I think what people need to realize as well is like, there's always more to come off.
Yeah.
Like no matter how much body fat you think you have, you've got more to come off. Like Cal put something up about the glutes thing, didn't he? Yesterday on social media, and it's like, I tagged Nathan in straight away because he's just got genetically freaky glutes, but not many people have glutes like Nathan. So people look at Nathan and they go, fucking hell, I've seen his glutes. It's like, you're going to have to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig to see anything of a resemblance of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's just people thinking it's an easy thing to achieve by going on a little bit of a diet. And again, this way I want bodybuilding to be known as an extreme. It's not a photo shoot prep. It's not something that anyone should be able to do. Anyone can actually do it, but to be able to do it well, it does take a specific kind of approach and mindset to it. Now, you can have a more relaxed approach to it. Of course, you can't be, the results won't be as good, and you've got to accept that.
And I think a good point to lead on to there is almost, I know everyone says it all the time, like, why are you prepping? What's the reason you're doing it? And I know for myself, like, I was training before I even thought the stage was a thing. Like, I'd invested in the process of not even bodybuilding, just bettering myself through training and nutrition, and almost worked through in tiers. Like, I worked through, okay, I'm just going to get fitter in the gym. Then I fell in love with the nutrition and feeling good from eating well. Then I developed my physique from that. And then it was from there, okay, let's go into further bodybuilding. Let's get more advanced into that. Then let's photo shoot. Then let's prep. There was a tier of processes that I went through to even get to that stage. Whereas I think we're seeing now a transition of someone just starting out the gym and then it's, I want to compete. Like there's
Yeah,
no, it's from here to here rather than in blocks and stages. And I think that's something that social media doesn't show you is the tiers and the time that you have to spend before even looking to commit to a process like this.
100%. I think it's because it's so easily visible now on social media, where like PCA, as soon as they got this competition, like the photos are going up straight away, the videos people posting straight away. Like before, you even like when I started competing, like there wasn't Instagram,
Yeah, yeah.
so the only way you really got to see a show was when you went to one.
Or
There
you knew
wasn't that
someone
social media platform.
yeah, that was in
Well,
crazy shape.
yeah, and like they competed. It wasn't as common now where when people are in good nick, you just assume they compete now.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah,
was
yeah.
never like that. People were just in decent nick, and then you had the people who were freaks of nature, and you asked them if they competed. You didn't just assume.
Hmm.
And it has changed, and we've got to accept it's changed, but the process is still the same process. Like to get that lean, it is very, very difficult.
Hmm.
And this is again one of the problems I see in bodybuilding is when people are stepping on stage and they're not lean enough. And I think again it's because they've not like expected enough from themselves because they didn't know how much to expect.
Hmm.
Like everybody works hard. Like I think this thing is like it's like just because you worked hard and you didn't place doesn't mean you didn't warrant the placing. Like
Yes.
people just look better. It's
Hmm.
like everybody works hard to get to
Hmm.
the condition they've had to get to, and it's end of there. And again, when people aren't lean enough on stage, I think it's because they didn't think they would have to work as hard or weren't willing to work as hard as what was needed to step on stage. So if that's the case, you can't really complain because there's enough information out there nowadays.
Hmm. And then to summarize that point as a whole, so if somebody's potentially thinking about competing, what advice would you give them? Like that are just looking through their first comp that may know what it takes, may not know what it takes. What's the kind of like problem solution around this kind of issue that we're seeing right now?
Give yourself enough time. Like, don't think you can do a 12-week diet.
Hmm.
Give yourself at least 20 weeks, and map it all out, and pick a show date and reverse engineer from it. And if you
Hmm.
can't pick a show date at that moment in time, pick a time frame. So
Yeah.
say end of August or start of August, and
Hmm.
then whenever shows come up around, then you can start being a little bit more specific. But be very, very meticulous with the approach because it is meticulous. It's not something you can just do off a whim.
Yeah.
So again, like be very, very accurate towards that. But the most important thing is give yourself enough time and make sure all your ducks in a row. So make sure you've got no external stressors. So if you're buying a house, don't fucking prep. Like
Yeah.
that's a horrendous situation to be in because your life's so inconsistent. Whereas we know within bodybuilding in a prep scenario, consistency is key. So you wake up at the same time, you do your cardio at the same time, you do your posing, you do your
Yeah.
training, you eat your meals. So if there's anything that can throw that off on a regular basis, because look, we live in the real world. So there's always gonna be times when things get thrown off. Like we went to Malta, didn't we, in my prep? And it's like life wasn't perfect in that regards because obviously you're eating, you're flying in a little bit different times, but
Breaking your
at the
foot.
majority of the time I was in this flat and I fucking fell down the stairs. But like the majority of the time, I was in this flat where we would get up in the morning, we'll go for a walk, you would take me photos, or we'll have a look, and then we'll go and train, and everything was pretty much very regimented.
No, really good point. And I think just to add my take on that, I think go through a prep without the stage. And this is something
Yes,
that
I
I
love that.
done and I thought was such a good trial run because I wanted to one prove to myself I could, so there was zero doubts around the process when the time come. And second to see if I could and did like it. Like I went through, okay, this is my first ever 2, 3 weeks of having an off plan meal. Let's see if I can do it. Done it successfully. And then that was okay, that was a tick box and a stepping stone in that process of getting to the stage was just treating that diet as if I was going to. So if I were then committed, I knew I wouldn't be then saying something or committing to something I couldn't do. So I think that's kind of some good takeaway points there.
I think that's an awesome point. And something else I just want to add on to that is like it's okay not to enjoy it.
Mm,
Like it's okay to not like prep. You
yeah,
can just like bodybuilding, but not actually enjoy the extreme dieting or stepping on stage because you don't have to be a cook. It's a cool question. It's like, do you have to be a bodybuilder? Do you have to step on stage to be a bodybuilder? But it's like you can enjoy the bodybuilding process and the bodybuilding lifestyle without having to step on stage.
yeah.
So don't feel like you have to force yourself to do something. It's not your cup of tea.
Or
It's like
everyone
people
says
like to run.
you look
Pardon,
good,
sorry.
you should compete. Or if someone's
Yeah,
telling,
of course, yeah. Like it's like I've got Isaac right now, right? I fucking filled him full of carbs today. He's got a photo shoot on Thursday. I would love him to compete but like at the end of the day, he's running a very very successful business. He's chocker with work, and like he's not in the right mindset to do it because he's got other commitments.
Yeah,
So it's like just because he is good enough to compete from a physique standpoint, his life's not in the right place right now. So I think
yeah.
that's a very, very good point. And I love the point you made there about like a mock prep to some degree
Mhm.
without stage. Because if you don't enjoy it, it's pointless putting yourself through it for 20 weeks.
Yeah, and you save yourself money, time, and potentially affecting relationships and social life for no reason.
And I think a good, okay, something to add on to that as well is like, would you do if Instagram wasn't there? So if you weren't getting the compliments from people in your DMs or all this thing, would you still actually step on stage and would you actually still go through the process?
Hmm.
Like, and if the answer is no, it might not be for you. So if you're using people's meshes to give you self-validation, that's probably something else you want to work on.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's not going to be there forever. So
Hmm.
you should be relying on other people giving you compliments for you to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
So again, if social media wasn't there, if Instagram wasn't there, would you still go through the process of prep and step on stage?
Yeah, I love that point. And then I think I'm going to swing into the next one, which for me, I've certainly noticed this year a massive confusion with what to do, what not to do. This is how you do it. This isn't how you do it. And I think this is a good one to go into because it's becoming more and more problematic with everyone having a presence or a name on social media. Is everyone's trying to get their message across and everyone's trying to preach their way of doing things. And I think the easiest way to explain it is there isn't any set rules. Obviously, there's things that work and there's things that don't work, but on a broader spectrum, it's bodybuilding's your experience and your journey and trialing and error. And I think that's also the beautiful part of bodybuilding for me was learning and trying so many things. Like I had the privilege of being able to try a diet, realize this way didn't work. I tried growing, got fat as anything, and that didn't work. Like I went through all these processes, and that armed my arsenal as a coach, and it also made me enjoy the process more, rather than being like, follow this one for 10 weeks, let's try this for 8 weeks, and getting so confused with it. It takes the enjoyment out of it if you don't just do what works for you.
I think it's a very good point as well because like at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're not robots, so we're all going to respond to things differently. Now, people keep go, how many sets should I do a workout or how much cardio should I do? It's like try it and find out because that's the only way you're going to find out because it doesn't matter because everyone gets so bunged up by the science now,
Mm.
and the science should be used there to guide you to some degree, but then you've got to apply it to yourself. So, for example, if you've got an upper body training session and you're doing 6 sets for chest, 8 sets for back, and you're like, I wonder if I could have another set for chest, do another set and see if your progression is still occurring. If it's not, pull back. And then if you
Hmm.
pull back to 6 and it's like, I wonder if I could get more progress, like in regard to a strength thing, put it back to 5 and see if you can make more progress with that. And
Hmm.
again, it is about trial and error and using yourself as a dummy, as an example of what works for you because there's so many different things that can work for other individuals. Like you might get on with higher fat and low carbohydrates, vice versa. Like there's certain rules, as you said before, rightly so, that we have to follow. Like you need to be in a deficit, you need to be in a surplus, and we need to train to proximity of failure to create an adaptation. But how you do that is completely individualized. And what do you enjoy? Like that's the thing is like what do you enjoy training? So like this upper lower split that I'm running right now, I really, really enjoy it because it's really, really hard. But people might not enjoy it. People might want to get a bit more of a chest pump or a bit more of a delt pump because you do so many minimal sets but you do it on higher frequency. It might not work for you, and that's fine.
And my question for you on that one, because I already think I know your answer to it.
Go on.
This is where enjoyment's so high, because if I was to say to you, you could yield 10% more results, but do reps in reserve for the rest of your life, would you do it?
No.
Because you enjoy training hard.
Yeah.
And that's that
So
trade-off.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like 10% a lot. No, I still wouldn't. No, because the whole point's like you said this before. Like when we started off training before even bodybuilding was a thing, I love to kill myself in the gym.
Mm.
I love to know that I left everything in the tank. Like I emptied the tank and left everything on that gym floor. Because if I went there, even if I was making more progress, it's like in my head, it's like I could have given a little bit more. And that's how
Yeah,
like we apply ourselves to life though, isn't it? It's like you give
100%.
110% to everything you do in life because I know that personally. So it's like I wouldn't want to be holding back.
Hmm.
I just wouldn't. I just don't see the point.
And that's the thing I think is so important that is, yeah, you may be able to try this nutritional way of going about your bodybuilding journey or way of training, but if that's not like driven through enjoyment or you wanting to do that, then you're never going to sustain it long term. So
Of
you can look
course.
for all these methods and follow all these fancy ways, but if it's never genuinely what you enjoy doing, then the consistency is not going to be there, which underpins everything.
I completely agree. And consistency is the most important thing when it comes to bodybuilding.
Mhm.
Like it's like as I said, like when we were going through my prep, it's like we literally you weren't even on prep, mate, and you literally lived the same life every single day because you still follow the bodybuilding lifestyle.
Mhm.
Like it is consistency. You eat the meals at the same time, you train roughly the same time. It's like there's not much deviance.
Mhm. And then into that point as well, like if you have hired a coach to take you on this journey and almost eliminate some mistakes through learning from them, don't get caught up in other opinions. Like you're paying that coach and they're teaching you the way forward. So if somebody else in the gym says to you, "Why are you training like that?" You trust your coach, you're with that coach, just allow their process to unfold because you're paying them, you respect what it is they say, and they should have got you somewhat results already. So that should be your trust and buy into them.
And to add on to that, and like if you are wanting to know why you're doing what you're doing with your coach, ask them.
Hmm.
Because again, when you truly understand why you're doing something, you're going to follow the process a lot more. If
Yeah,
you're just following something blind, you will always have self doubt within that to some degree.
yeah,
So it's like when we decide to do things, it's like we both make sure that we both fully believe in the process that we're trying to achieve. Otherwise, like the whole reps and reserve, for example, it's like if I don't know if Nathan, for example, said I want you to do reps and reserve because of X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z, and say my digestion was really bad for something. He said this is going to help this. I would do it for amounts of time, but again, he's justified it
mhm,
because again, like the digestion's a bit of a problem for me at that moment in time.
yeah.
But it would only be for a moment in time.
Hmm.
But yeah, like as you said though, it's like you're paying someone follow their advice. Because then they like if you're doing different things to what the coach is saying, it's not working with the coach because the coach then doesn't know what they're applying is actually having any effect on you.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think the next good one to lead into, which is kind of the reason we originated this podcast, is not deleting the idea of perfection, but prioritizing progress over that. Because I think we all want to be perfect and we all want to strive to be the best. And again, in bodybuilding, that's a positive thing. Like you want to be able to, how can I eke 5% more out of this? How can I get 1% more out of that? But always aiming for perfection over the progress is never going to end well, as you're never going to be satisfied in that pursuit of being better.
And it's one of these, isn't it? It's like it's the whole point. It's like I seen someone post something really, really good a couple of days ago. It's like there's no such thing as the perfect physique, and you can't control the other people who step on stage next to you or how hard the other people work. You can only control yourself. So it's like, are you getting strong in the gym? Tick a box. Are you doing all the steps that need to be done? Tick a box. So it's like you're progressing within your life and within your own journey, which is going to have the most profound impact on the stage. It doesn't matter who stands next to you.
Mm,
Like I stood next to Ben Featherstone in PCA and he had 20 kilos on me and he turned IFBB Pro, I think a month or 6 weeks later. I had no control over that, but I made sure I could do everything that Kuba told me to do to bring the best package I could on stage.
mm.
And that's why after when I got off on stage, I was in a good place and I
Yeah.
had great support by people around me as well. And again, don't forget as well, it is a very, very selfish sport, bodybuilding. But don't forget the other people who are putting up with the shit you're putting them through. So yes, you might be tired and you might be fatigued, but also you will be projecting that onto others as well. So as soon as your time is done on stage, make sure you actually appreciate the support that you've had from the people around you and
Yeah.
make sure you actually feed back to them as well.
Hmm. That's a brilliant point. And for yourself, is there any more things that stand out to you in terms of things you've noticed this year?
No, but I've got a question for you. Is like, how have you seen the type of clientele that you've been getting through their mindset change from like when you first started prepping people to now? Like, have you seen a lot more of an expectation to do well, or has it changed a little bit?
Yeah, good question. I think, yeah, I definitely think the expectation's higher because the more results that come in, everybody's thinking, oh, well, that person's got that result. Why can't I? But then it's also, like you say, managing that expectation as people come in because to get that result is going to warrant this. And as long as you've made somebody aware of, like we said, what you may have to do, that kind of comes with that. So it's like, okay, if you're expecting to get as close to this result as possible, this is the list of requirements that's going to come from you to be able to make that possible or make the progress necessary to make that possible, not even as a guarantee. So I think that's kind of laying that out there to say that we can create the best probability for this to happen, and that's going to require X, Y, Z, and you progressing in this shape or form.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point there in regards to there's no guarantee. It doesn't matter how hard you work, but as I said, as long as you follow the advice that you're given and you do everything you can to a T, you're giving yourself the best possibility to do the best you can on stage.
Yeah, and I think a massive thing that I do all the time, I do it all in peak week, all on like the last few 2, 3 weeks, because you know what it's like on that lead up to the comp. I know you've been there as well, when you're so hyper focused on that moment in time and that day and that process that you forget how far you've come, what you've done for that process. So dropping a client a voice note when they're 1 week out saying, this is the last time you're going to be in peak week. Enjoy these few days. Like that brings them from here to just out here to view the process as a whole, rather than being stuck in that little bubble and that tunnel vision. I find that helps massively.
I think that's a good point there. It's like, because like no one said before, like it is such a selfish pursuit. It's like,
Mm.
try and think bigger picture all the
Yeah,
time as well. Because again, when you get so caught up with your own emotions, that will then elevate stress. When stress gets elevated, the body won't respond as well. So again, sometimes when you take a step back and actually realize it's not that fucking important, and it
yeah,
is important to you as a person, it's like a personal goal. But in the grand scheme of life, nobody really gives a fuck.
yeah.
And I mean that in the most respectful way to everyone competes, because it doesn't impact many people's lives. So
Hmm.
it's like, enjoy it, and really, really do enjoy it. But at the same time, realize that it's not that important. And
Yeah,
the most important thing is is actually your enjoyment of it. The placing and all that is irrelevant, really. It
yeah,
really, really is. Because what, you get a plastic PCA trophy, or you get a medal from Two Bros, or anything, it's like, so
yeah,
it's like, that doesn't warrant you to be a cunt to everybody around you. Wouldn't you rather not get that? Wouldn't you rather not get that trophy, not get that medal, still look fucking awesome, but be a nice person, and people to say positive things about you afterwards as well?
yeah. And I think I've seen it with myself. I know you've probably been there sometimes when you'll see a client's mindset shift as they're going through prep. Like, let's say their body weight
Yeah,
hasn't dropped, and every day they're waking up thinking the only thing that matters to me is that I see this pound loss on the scales. The only
yeah,
thing I
yeah.
care about is getting through this day to see that result on the scales tomorrow. And you forget about you forget about everyone around you. You forget about the training session. The only thing you're hyper focused on is that scale weight, and how that narrows your vision and your mindset down to that, rather than I've lost 30 pounds this whole prep or 40 pounds this whole preps is crazy. So being able to just pull yourself out of that fixation is super important.
And I think that's why it's very, very important to have a coach as well, because at the end of the day, and I was saying this all the way through my prep, like, the stress isn't on me, the stress is on Cuba.
Yes.
So I'm going to do everything Cuba says.
Hmm.
So if the things don't work, that's on him, not on me.
Yeah.
So if the scale didn't budge, that's for him to mess around with and figure out why.
Hmm.
And again, it's like, if your day is getting determined by what numbers say on a scale, I said there's deeper issues than that.
Yeah.
Like, there really, really is. Like, it's just a bit of data. And I understand, by the way, I understand how emotionally attached people can get to scales. Most definitely. Like, look, I buy fucking kitchen scales an awful amount, because, like, I hate it. I hate when technology goes. But at the end of the day, it is just a number. And it's a number on a grander scale of things, like, how was your sleep? How was your digestion? Like, all of these things can contribute to that number not potentially going in the direction that you and your coach thought it would. So
Mm.
again, like, put it in perspective of what it actually is. Like, that pound sign or the kilogram sign means fuck all, in regards to if you're ticking all the boxes and you're looking the best you've ever looked. Unless you have to hit a weight cap, that's probably the only time the number's actually relevant.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. And I think one final point to finish on, unless you've got anything to add, is almost everybody slating everybody. And I find
Yeah,
this to be so just so toxic in general when like you see one person like training this way, oh they're training shit. Like they shouldn't be doing that. Or even just pressing their views onto other people when it's not even asked. It's like if someone
yeah.
wants to train that way or somebody wants to eat that way, like let them do that. If that's wrong, they will find out or they will soon be learnt their lesson if that's not right. That's not your position to tell them.
I love that, mate, because, like, if like, bodybuilding's such a beautiful, like, I can't really call it a sport, but like a community to be in for the majority of the time. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, you are pushing each other, and like, you should want to stand next to people who are fucking good on stage.
Hmm.
And if they beat you, the judges prefer them for whatever reason that may be, and all you do is just accept it, go back to drawing board, and see where you can improve as an individual. But if you, for some reason, then start to take it to social media and start slagging people off and start saying, you should have done this, you shouldn't have done this, or you should have won, or whatever, you shouldn't. Because
Yeah.
one, you haven't got the right attitude to have won anyway.
Hmm.
It's a subjective sport. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the judges think. And at the end of the day, you should be proud of the package that you brought. If you're
Yes.
not proud of the package you brought, then that's on you.
Mm.
And again, like, I just don't get the whole slagging people off. And like, unless someone's like pushing their modality onto you. So I don't know, say if someone's coming to you and go, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. Like, well, don't tell me what I should be doing.
Yeah.
It's like, I know what works for me at this moment in time, and I might try what you're saying at some point, but like,
Mm.
you shouldn't do it. But like, if people are just cracking on, doing whatever they want to do, let them crack on.
Yeah.
They're not doing any harm.
Hmm. Yeah.
I
No, I
think
think
it's a really, really good point.
you mentioned that there, and I've seen it so many times, like at shows when the first thing a coach says to a client when they come off stage is, "Oh, you should have been one place higher." Not a well done for stepping on stage and
Yeah,
smashing it. Grab. It's like you've just taken that full experience away and said you should have placed one higher. Like that's
yeah,
the whole reason they've done the pros. Like yes, they may have gone for a result, but if it's the difference between like fourth and third or fifth and fourth, like you're taking away everything from that client by just going, you should have been here. Like, it is what it is. You can't control that. Move on from there, and like you said, use it as feedback for the next show.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're very, very good as well in regards to you're very good at communicating and rationalising things, and that's what you need to do when the client comes off the stage. It's like because they've hit such an adrenaline high,
Mm.
and they might be disappointed or they might be overexcited, and you need to bring everyone back down to reality.
Yeah.
Because again, like after stage, I said like the focus has got to be on the people around you, not
Hmm.
on yourself. So
Yeah.
stop being so self-centered once you've
Mm.
completed your time on stage, and if your coach has got some feedback, listen to the feedback. Go and have your off-plan meal if you want an off-plan meal or whatever you want to do. If you don't, that's also okay. It's like just like but spend time with the people who've been through the whole journey. And I think that's probably one of the most important things, is making sure that you actually love the bodybuilding process, but understand everybody else doesn't love it. And if people are still staying with you in a relationship and they don't love it, they deserve a bit of attention.
Fully agree. And I think that's a really good point to finish on, unless you've got anything to add.
No, 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 no. But I really enjoyed that. It was quite a good one.
That's a good
It's
one.
quite
So
nice.
if anybody,
Season's ending now, hasn't it?
yeah, yeah, we got,
Pretty much, yeah.
I think November's, no, the Worlds is, PCA Worlds is usually the last show, Spain. Is it? No, Amsterdam, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Amsterdam this year, isn't it?
Yeah, 16th, I think it is the last one.
So yeah, it's not too far, is it?
Yeah, I'm sure it's just, because I'm sure it's the same weekend as Milan, which is the 16th, I think, is the last show.
Yeah.
PCA anyway. Yeah. But on that
Right.
note, if anyone watching has had any issues they found in 2024 with bodybuilding, training, nutrition, pop them in the comments and we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. But that aside, thanks for listening, guys, and see you on the next episode.
Stays there.